Welcome, everybody, to episode 79 of DAT Poker Podcast. It is July 16th, 2020. I'm your host, A. Schwartz, alongside Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Hey, Poker World.
And Mr. T. Chan, Terrence, the World Series of Poker is about to kick. It has kicked off on WorldSeriesPoker.com. It's about to kick off this weekend on GG Poker. What's going on up in the hinterland?
Well, actually, GG Poker, to correct you a little bit, because I get to talk before Daniel. It's already started. It started today. The opener, the $100 buy-in opener, I've played it. I've busted it, and so I'm happy to be joining you guys. But I've officially played my first event, a World Series of Poker event in the year 2020. It's underway for the rest of the world.
All right, and Mr. Daniel Negreanu in Las Vegas. Daniel, I know somebody told me that you can't be all loosey-goosey eating a sandwich. Everything you do conveys information at the poker table. This week I was watching you, and you had a little bit of an issue with the connection on your stream.
I see the flop on that screen, but it's on me again. Come on, bro. Come on, you come on, let's go. It's got me sitting up. That's when you know, that's when my assistants and wife go. That's when they really laugh. Is when I kick shit, because that's my next go-to. And then I just have to kick something, It was fun actually looking back and watching it the next day and seeing how much I lost my shit. And I think most people out there who've played on the internet and had, something happen like that, they totally can relate. I got a lot of people saying, "Oh, I totally feel you, man. I've been there." So I have very little patience for some things, and at the top of that list is any kind of issues with internet. It's that, yeah.
Did you get it straightened out? What's the what's the
my internet?
result?
It has nothing to do with my internet. I was streaming just fine. Everything else works fine. From what I heard and what I got back from them was I use a Mac when I play, and when they have an overload or they have an issue and they have to scale back to maintain the site, they kick off the Mac users first because there's a much smaller percentage of them. So they start with the Mac users and make it more difficult on them, and then they trickle down or whatever. But it's in order to stabilize the server or whatever the case may be. So I do have a desktop as well. But you know what else worked too is backup. So it happened to me the other day, and I was on my laptop, and it froze. But instantly, I went on my phone, signed in, boom, was able to catch up in time. So, as I preached on my streams, you got to have a backup plan. And I was in the moment streaming, and I'm like, what the hell do I do? Because I thought in my head for some reason I had to be stuck here because I was doing the stream and I couldn't move. But I could have done all those other things, and it would have worked just fine. But I was just having a little Tourette's display.
They told you that they kick off Mac users first?
Hey, I was going to go to you, Terrence, and ask you if that's some bullshit, because that doesn't sound like a thing at all.
Well, the theory is that because Mac users are, so the way that I heard it was that because Mac users, they said, are very small percentage of the player base, and when they do have issues that they need to stabilize the software, the tweaks that they make negatively affect the Mac users more than everyone else. Because no one else was having issues unless they were on a Mac. Because several people had issues, and other people my software is fine. So it was all Mac related.
Well, playing a computer then, I guess, is the World Series of Poker. You get an extra tenth of a big blind in Ivey for playing on PC.
All right, guys, we are into our third week. This is we're getting close to the GG Poker Series starting. Well, it's already started, as Terrence has so nicely corrected me. The flights for the opener, the $100 event that kicks off this weekend, is underway. Terrence has busted and played. Terrence, for any thoughts on GG and how it went?
I mean, the experience playing on GGs is just dandy. It's a bit daunting to try to get through a 6,000, 7,000 player flight. That's only one of, I think, 8 starting flights for $100 buy-in. I found it really hard to keep focus, so I had all the browser tabs open. I was not practicing good online poker discipline, back in the day when you're really grinding, you're working hard, you got your tables open, you got absolutely, you got no Facebook, no Twitter, no Reddit, but man, it's it's rough playing like 9-handed no limit hold'em on the internet on one table sometimes. So I did that. So I don't know if I'll be firing a lot in $100 buy-in tournaments and stuff like that. And I've also been playing so much short that I'm used to like VPIPing 40% of my hands, and I don't get to do that at full ring at no limit hold'em. So, but I mean,
suggestion for Terrence, because as a fellow person who has one tabled or whatever, the great news about that is if you're one tabling is like you can do the Reddit, you can do the Facebook, you can watch movies, you can do whatever you want, and then literally whenever you have the time, you just go over the last 10 hands in the hand history.
That's true. I do that.
So basically, like, I don't pay attention in real time. When I fold, I'm like, I'm doing other stuff or whatever, and then I'll go back and make sure that I look at any significant situations in the hands, and then I'll make notes after that. So you have that luxury where you can kind of get away with not paying attention in the moment. You can't do that when you play live, because once the hand's over, it's over.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's something to be said about the presence of watching in real time. I mean, if you believe that timing tells are a thing, that's something that's not in hand history. And sometimes I just find that, if I haven't played a hand in a couple orbits, like all of a sudden I'll be in a hand with somebody, I'm like, I have no information about this guy whatsoever because I haven't done that hand history refresh. I do what you're doing and kind of like, oh, it's been about 20 minutes. I should look at any significant showdowns, any hands that have been played. But sometimes you just end up in a hand and like you're just like, when did this guy get moved to my table? Oh, an hour ago. Oops.
So you mentioned it, Terrence, the vast amount of people playing in these flights. And I think once we get over to GG, with the size of the GG poker is now and how fast it's grown, and with the huge base of tournament players, we have access to the rest of the world rather than just in Nevada and New Jersey. These numbers are going to get blown through the roof because and we'll talk about it in a bit with the World Series of Poker stuff, but I don't think we've cracked the tournament as far as number of runners in the top 3 bracelet events all time. If you look back to 2018, 2019, and while the World Series was going on, they were having the bracelet events because, of course, all the poker players in the world are in Las Vegas, so they can play. Some did travel to Nevada, but we're not seeing the huge fields that maybe we would have hoped for. However, I think that's going to change real soon. And speaking about that, Daniel, I know this week there's been some, issues with obviously the coronavirus is running rampant through the U.S. right now. And no, it's not fake news. There's a serious problem down there, and a lot of the countries are closing their doors to the U.S. for non-essential travel. And Mexico, I think, was one of them. But I think there's some issues with only people driving over rather than flying over. What have you found out?
Yeah, no, we're fine. First and foremost. The issue with travel to Mexico is simply one of you can't drive over at a land port, but you can fly. International flights are still just fine. There's no issues there. There are certain parts of Mexico that are really spiking, but then there are some specific cities that are doing really, really well. So, who knows how long that lasts. But, I think the Canadian border is the one where I believe if you are Canadian, you can obviously come back home and quarantine for 14 days or whatever, but I would imagine it'd be difficult for a poker player to sell the idea that it is essential for me to play on GG in the $500 hyper turbo knockout because that's my business. And it could work actually. I mean, I think you can make a case for it. Like if you are a professional poker player in the U.S. and you play online poker, like I think you could make a theoretical case that it is essential for you to do your job if that's what you would do normally. So who knows? I don't know. Like I don't know what the issue is going to be with the Canadian border, but I'm pretty confident that everything's going to go smoothly with my trip to Mexico.
Good, Terrence. You're obviously starting to play. You mentioned you might not be able to handle the giant fields, but what have you looked down the list of tournaments at GG, and what's your schedule looking like?
Mostly short deck and limit hold'em. I mean, I could, because those are the as we talked about last week on the show, short deck has renewed my passion for the game a little bit. I like being able to play lots of hands. Short deck allows you to play lots of hands. No limit hold'em does not let you play lots and lots of hands. You get punished for it. So I love the structure of short deck. I don't know if I'll fire in the 10K. If only there was somebody that would just hand me like a free $10,000 for like no good reason. But
hey, I have an idea.
Oh wait, somebody did that.
Well, why don't you go into the staking software? You buy into the tournament, list yourself at a price, and I guarantee people are going to want to buy pieces of you. So you could play that 10K short deck. Maybe to some of our DAT Poker Pass podcast listeners, we could, figure out a way where we can get you in this thing.
that's true. I am up 11 buy-ins on cash so far, so that's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll sell a little bit. I always feel I haven't sold action for a tournament in a long time, but this would be a fun way to do it at a sweat. I would do whatever percentage I did at no markup because I'm not like a crusher in this game, I don't think by far, but I've been practicing hard for the last month. And then GG was nice enough. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, most of the reason you don't sell action is the friction of selling the action, right? It's a pain in the ass. Daniel's gone through it.
I mean, no, for me, I was like, I'm always scared when people have my action. Like, I feel like I have this really strong responsibility to play really well and get it in really good. And I don't know if that actually affects my play in real life. I mean, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But it's more been stuff like that. Like, so I've never really. The reason why I've never sold action very much, at least not in the beginning of my career, obviously you're operating on a low bankroll, but not for the last 10 or so years, because like I've always felt like if I wasn't good enough or whatever, confident enough to take all of my own action, then I kind of shouldn't be playing the event. So like there have been a couple times in the last little while that I've been sold action. I sold action to the 10K triple draw to Bill Chen because I wasn't sure whether I was like plus EV against the field. And so I had a meeting with Bill in the hotel room, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're plus EV in this field." And so like, and I was like, "Well, do you want to buy action?" He's like, "Yeah." And so that was sort of like a confidence statement. Like if somebody plays with you for a little while and says like, "No, I'm willing to buy a piece of you in this tournament," that's like a confidence thing. It gave me the confidence to do that, like play the 10K triple draw. And then the other one would be like, for the short deck, it's like I've been playing this game for a month. I mean, I think I'm better than the average, $2 ante player, $1 ante player, but I've only been playing for a month, so I can't say that I'm crushing the field. So I feel bad if I make, egregious mistakes in the tournament. That's on me, but I mean, not everybody sees it that way.
Daniel, I noticed this week that you found out something us Canadians who have traveled to the U.S. Found out for a long time, and that's that the Bank of America sucks.
So this is not the first time we're like, because a lot of people, when I tweeted this, are like, wait a minute, didn't Bank of America close your account down before? So in 2015, I had both a business account and a personal account with Bank of America, and they let me know that they were shutting down my personal account. I was having money coming in and out. There's all verifiable from people, different stuff. Then they elected to shut down my personal account, but they left my business account intact. So I'm thinking, okay. Well, all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, I get a letter from the Bank of America that says, essentially, we're shutting down your account. We're not really going to tell you why, and there's no way to appeal. The decision is final. So you have 21 days to move your shit. So I was like, okay, well, the only thing I could think of, because I'm like, I don't do anything weird out of that account. I don't know if somehow, because on PayPal, for about 10 straight days, I put in $3K on WSOP.com, right? So I wonder if PayPal somehow connected to the bank account where they're like, online poker, we don't know anything about it. And this is kind of how, because I've learned this, one of the more I've learned about banking from the guys over at Lexicon Bank, which is where I've moved. In that Bank of America, how they sort of do things is like, so you got a branch manager, you have an overhead, you have a higher up, whatever. They see some suspicious activity or something they don't understand. Rather than look into it and go, Google Daniel Negreanu. You're like, oh, he makes his money playing poker. He has 40 million in earnings. They're like, meh, I don't know. We don't know anything about it. Just shut it down, right? So they're big enough that they don't care. Thankfully, Lexicon Bank, who you guys remember Russell Rosenblum, I would imagine.
Sure.
Of course.
Yeah. So Russell is very involved in this bank, and this bank is designed. Lexicon Bank is for the gambler, for the Las Vegas gambler. Obviously, it's open to everybody, but they have a full understanding of gambling. What licenses, what the Nevada Gaming needs to see, they know exactly what to do. So I'm going to give them access to like all my, cards across the world or whatever, and they will let the what are they called? The operator, not the freaking whatever. I can't even think of the name now, but the people who oversee. So they have they're going to have a direct relationship with them and take all the steps to make sure that you have no issues. They'll do the wires for you. It'll be very, very smooth. So I'm excited to move over to Lexicon Bank. It's a very new bank. It was just opened in 2019 here, not far from my house. And I hope that poker players who are having issues with Bank of America or anywhere else look into Lexicon Bank, as they are. Like I said, there's a poker player, Russell Rosenblum, at the top. Like he knows what's up.
Russ is great. I totally vouch for Russ. He's just a great guy and a very smart dude. It's funny that you brought this up. Yesterday, I spent an hour and 6 minutes with Bank of America Not like on hold, but like with a real human being. I spent an hour and 6 minutes. You want to know why? Because they couldn't put a Canadian postal code into their zip code field.
Oh my God.
Canadian postal codes, letters and numbers. American zip codes, only numbers. They're 6 versus 5. They could not do it. They couldn't put it on the address field. They were like, we have to put something in there, but it's not accepting yours. An hour and 6 minutes with a real human. I just can't get. I can't wait to get. Like, the thing is, I will happily open an account at the Lexicon Poker Bank run by Russ Rosenblum, but that'll have to wait until I'm actually in the United States, which at this rate is maybe what, like 2024.
Right around
There you go. All right, moving on. Some big news in poker this week before we get to the World Series of Poker stuff, the online stuff, is Phil Ivey. If everybody remembers back to this dispute he had with the Borgata in New Jersey, as well as Crockford's, but this piece of news is specific to the Borgata, and that is that the Borgata and Phil Ivey have come to an agreement, a settlement. They've settled out of court, which will allow Phil to travel and play poker in the U.S. without fear of having his money confiscated if he does cash. So it's great news for poker, obviously, because that gets Phil Ivey back in the limelight, playing some poker tournaments. It might not be a while before we play live tournaments, but it's great. It's great that Phil's got that behind him. So now we are going to play the game of warmer and colder with Daniel about how much the settlement was for.
I'm gonna. What I think is, I think the term is plead the fifth on what the settlement was for. But I will just say this. I will say on, I can't imagine how difficult the last 4 or 5 years have been for Phil Ivey dealing with these lawsuits and Croxford's and Borgata. Just a major stress, source of stress for somebody, for whoever, right? So to have that behind him has to be really, really good. He's in a great space mentally. He's been, he's really, really a happy dude. He's, living life the way he wants to live it, and doing really well playing poker. He's obviously playing overseas with a lot of those big. He's, when you want to learn how to play short deck, Phil Ivey's right up there, and with some of the goats, because that's essentially what he's almost playing strictly now in a lot of those big games. So Phil, I know, in speaking to him, that he said now that he's getting older and he's in a different place, that this is going to excite people. He's like, the bracelet thing's starting to matter to him now. Now, how cool would that be if we have Phil Ivey, with the mindset of like, okay, bracelets matter to me now. So, now you look at Phil Hellmuth's 15 or 16 and you think, okay, well, if anyone can catch him, Phil Ivey's on the heels. So it'll be exciting to see whether, when we do get, back to live and play mixed games and stuff.
Well, is he in Nevada right now? Can he play?
He's on a different schedule. Like, he's waking up at 4 a.m. and, doing yoga and meditating, all this like cool new agey stuff. So he's not on a schedule to play the, the WSOP ones, but he obviously can. Yeah, there's no issues. There's no longer an issue whatsoever with any sort of U.S.-based, sites, and even over in England too with Genting, where he's basically essentially past the point of issue, because the issue with Croxford was he won a bunch of money, they never gave it to him, right? They gave him back the initial $1 million, so there's really no harm. He was suing them to get paid the money that he won, and it never happened. So they have no beef with him anymore either. Like, it's kind of, like I said, past them, and it's good.
They have no beef with him, the way that if a schoolyard bully beat you up in the schoolyard and took your lunch, they wouldn't come back to you and say, "Hey, you owe me a lunch." Like, is it's pretty much how that went. It's like, oh, wait, you played, oh, you won? We're not going to pay you. Yeah, you won, like, you lost. We're going to keep it. So, I mean, that's a bunch of bullshit. But we won't rehash that again. But Daniel, I wanted to ask you, because, without putting you on the spot for a dollar figure, I definitely don't want to do that. But I mean, we can assume that it's a pretty good chunk of change, probably in the 7-digit range, one way or the other. It's going to be hard for him to recuperate that kind of scratch playing in WSOP tournaments, even as awesome and fantastic and intimidating a player as he is. So do you think a lot of this was, you mentioned he's in a good place, do you think a lot of this was motivated more by things like pursuit for bracelet and being able to play competitive poker tournaments more than just like the financial EV of, okay, I have to pay these guys X dollars, but over the next 10, 15 years I might make Y dollars playing poker, and Y is bigger than X, so I'll do it?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was even like poker related decision, if you will. It was more a question of like, life. Like with this issue that he had, he was facing, it's like you really can't own anything, right? So Phil Ivey wants to buy a house. Okay, he buys the house, boom, they come take the house, right? So he was basically not freed up to live as he would normally live here in the United States because, there was, motions to, get that money or seize those assets. As you saw when he came in 8th place in the 50K and for like 120,000 or something like that. And, they didn't give it to him. Like they withheld that. So they took that from him. So now it frees him to do everything. As you said, like the World Series events, you're talking about first prizes is like 120K. That's not going to get him excited, but it's not about the money for him. He cares about, he's going to care about bracelets. He always has. We've always loved the World Series. We love playing the mixed games. Unfortunately, this year because it was last minute, we couldn't get the software up on GG for mixed. But going forward in future years, I would imagine that Phil Ivey will be just relieved and excited to play those events, not for the money, but for the glory. The money side of things, he can make that. Like he didn't have to do any of this. He could just live in Singapore or wherever the hell over in Asia and play in all these big games and make plenty of money and never pay anything. But for his own sanity, his mother lives here, his life is here, so he wanted to have a life.
It reminds me a bit of another bullshit legal thing, which is Isai Scheinberg, right? Like Isai going to surrender himself voluntarily to the United States so he doesn't have to look over his shoulder. He knows that this is, the government just, or in Phil's case, the Borgata, the people just want their money. And I have lots of money, so I'm going to give it to them and then I can stop looking over my shoulder. It's kind of extortion on the part of the Borgata and on the part of the U.S. government, but I mean, when you extort wealthy people, unfortunately, it works sometimes.
Well, there was one guy, Lee Nelson, who's written books. He wrote Kill Phil and a few books.
Lee Nelson's a great guy.
He's from New Zealand, and he used to be a regular at the World Series of Poker and play tournaments, whatever. He had a tax issue with the U.S. government, stuck his middle fingers up and said, hell no, I'm not paying you. I'm just never coming back here again. So, like, he's one of the few, because most people, they don't want to be away from the action. But, for Lee Nelson, he still played, in the EPTs, and he played, Australia and stuff, but just completely avoided the United States. As does Steve O'Dwyer, I believe, too, who doesn't have to for any legal reasons, but he just hates America so much that he won't play at the World Series. Like, you don't see him in any U.S. spots. He will play on all the other tours and different things like that, but not in the United States at all.
So Lee Nelson didn't have the best nickname, though. Let's get that out in the open. His nickname, from what I remember, if it's the same one, was Lee Final Table Nelson. I mean, I don't know.
It's a little dorky, but Lee was a great guy, and it is rare to see the situation like that. It reminds me of, like, you guys have seen The Rock, right? The movie. It's like, we will pay you $1 million, but you can never set foot again on your native soil. Like, what's your price to never be able to set foot again in your home country? And that's the sort of decision that a lot of these. Yeah, I mean, Isai is
that's
Canadian.
The specific thing. That's a very common Law and Things question.
Yeah.
Where we do like. You get Bill Perkins, you get Antonio, and you'd be like, all right, what's your price so basically, you can never leave Vancouver for the rest of your life. What's your price, right? And then, we would do, you can't leave Vancouver, ever.
It's gigantic. Like, it's bordering on infinite because, like, I mean, I really, really love traveling, and I don't know that the extra, like, if you gave me $10 billion, like, I don't like, you can't replicate that experience because we don't have.
There's a point where you become really selfish for not taking it. If someone said, "Here's $10 billion,"
oh yeah, because you can cure malaria or something. Sure.
I mean, you could, but you're like, nah, fuck it. I want to go on vacation. And,
right.
So screw y'all.
Yeah, there has become like an infinite money in the world where you just you essentially become the treasurer of the entire world, and you get to decide where all the money is spent.
Yeah. So the really good news of the Ivey settlement, of course, guys, is that frees him up to come on the DAT Poker Podcast, episode 100.
Yeah, I'm gonna text him. I'm gonna ask him to do that. We're gonna get him on there. Fuck it.
All right.
I saw he did a little video with Lee Davey. It was really good. If you guys haven't seen it, I tweeted it. Just did like one of those quick fire, interview questions, and like, well, what do you want to do with your life? What else, stuff like that. And he got a little deep there. So I think we can have a good one.
Nice.
You can't grill him about freaking stupid shit like full tilt poker. It wasn't his fault.
Well, we did an hour-long interview with Phil, and we didn't ask him. I don't think we grilled him at all. We had fun with him. How much you got? Did the whole thing. I think he enjoyed it.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
All right, moving on. We're going to get to the World Series of Poker stuff. I keep teasing it, but quickly, I mentioned GG Poker, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on to get you over there, to get you started. There's is this right, Daniel? There's a $5 million giveaway for the World Series of Poker to all kinds of different leaderboards. They're giving away $5 million in free cash.
$5 million, make it rain. With GG Poker, they do things, when they do things big, they go crazy. Like, in addition to that $5 million giveaway, you're talking about a main event with a $25 million guarantee. This is not going to be easy to hit, because contrary to what popular belief was that, there's going to be 22 flights, you could play as many bullets as you want, they're all freeze outs. You get 3 bullets total. So when you limit the number of bullets, 25 million is going to be significant. There is one thing, and I know you're going to get to it, but I wanted to just interject with it today because I did a video of it because it's really exciting news. As I mentioned to Terrence, in the software, you can go to a tournament, you see who's selling, and you can buy pieces, right? That's the normal thing. You can also sell pieces. Well, now, with these phased events where there's like 20 different flights of day ones, what we've been able to do within the software is you can buy pieces of players on day 2, okay? So you can actually see, okay, Fedor is a top 5 stack. He's selling at 1.8 or whatever the case may be, and it's a really good buy. So you have a little more insight. You can look at the leaderboard and see what kind of stack they've developed. In addition to that, let's say you're a guy who's a low roller, you don't have a ton of money, you bought into this 5K, and you've doubled your stack, right? Well, maybe to lock up a little bit of your profit, maybe you could sell a big piece of yourself. Maybe let's say if you could sell, 2x or whatever, you get your buying back and you could free roll. So it's going to create a lot of cool opportunities for investors to count the number of blinds. It's a lot more in depth, because if you did it on day 1, also with multiple bullets, you don't know how good, Terrence was concerned, you don't know how good the person's going to play on the first bullet. If someone buys the first bullet of me in an unlimited rebuy, I'd feel kind of bad selling at par, because, I'm probably negative EV on that one if I'm going to gamble like an idiot. So this allows people the opportunity to just skip right to the phase 2, see the stacks, and then buy and sell from there. You would expect now that guys that are good players, they're going to be able to sell a bigger markup. But at that stage of the tournament, they're much closer to the money anyway. So the markup will go up, but it'll also, just be a better buy, because, you've already gotten through a good portion of the field.
We won't go through the whole $5 million guarantee. If you want to find out the details, the $5 million giveaway, if you want to find the details, head on over to GG Poker. It's all spelled out there. It might take me a little while to explain the whole thing. There's so many ways to win. So head on over. Also, if you don't have an account, open one up. Get fired up. The World Series Poker is coming. Promo code Daniel. Daniel, what does that get them? Match $100?
No, it's a deposit bonus. It was. I don't know if it still is. I have to double check before I just throw it. Okay. It was a deposit bonus up to, I don't remember. I'm gonna have to go back on that one. Go back to my feed.
I think I got 3 times when I originally signed up, but got it. That was.
It was 200% up to $1,000. I don't know if that's still the case.
One thing I wanted to say about the staking thing, though, is I'm a sucker for the people who are just kind of funny and honest in their staking spiel, because in the client you can read about them, and when somebody's like, I have X ROI, links to my shark scope, I'm like, boring. But when somebody's like, I satellited in, I'm running good, I'm like, let's buy it.
On that note, and this is totally off topic, but you made me think of it because I watched it yesterday. You guys remember Morgan Spurlock, the guy who did Super Size Me about McDonald's?
Yeah.
Well, he did Super Size Me 2, and he called it Holy Chicken. And the whole show is about him opening up a chicken restaurant, right? But it was going to be the most honest and transparent chicken restaurant ever, right? So at the end, when he opens up the restaurant, I don't want to spoil it all for everybody, but you read things that are completely honest. It's we use words to try to make you think you're eating healthy. If it's too good to be true, it is, and it is, right? Yeah. It was a really interesting documentary because they explain how we manipulate, consumer, right? Because when you hear the word fried food, people think, ooh, bad, right? But when you hear fried chicken bad, but if you hear crispy chicken, oh, crispy, that could be healthy, right? So they tried to make they noticed that nobody wanted grilled chicken because it's boring. Everybody wanted fried. So they made a crispy grilled chicken sandwich, which is just a fried sandwich where you put the charcoal things on top to make it look like it was grilled. But it was really funny and interesting because what you're saying. I always kind of had that same feeling with, when you see homeless people in the street, and it just says listen, let's be honest, I'm fucking thirsty and I need a drink. Yeah. I want to get a case of beer, right? You kind of appreciate the honesty. I like it.
There's a
That
smiling
is-
masturbate guy who hangs around Vancouver.
Yeah, there is that guy in Vancouver. Yeah, for sure. The other thing about that Morgan Spurlock holy chicken, it's funny, and everybody's a sucker for it, myself included. Oh, it's free run chicken, right? Or free run chicken eggs or whatever. It's a giant barn, and they have like 5 square feet of a door open that is outside and not within the barn, and that allows them to call it free run.
Well, the truth is the USDA, they just stamp everything. They don't check anything. It's like, oh, you say that it's fine, it's fine. Like, we use buzz terms like cage-free, 100% natural. What does that mean? The way that it works with the word natural, you can define what that means for yourself. So you could say, our products are 100% natural, and then what is your definition of natural? You can literally make that up in an obscure website that nobody ever sees and still get away with doing that. So there's a lot of loopholes and a lot of interesting mind tricks that market researchers use to they use words like fresh. It doesn't have to. What does fresh mean? Like, is there a specific? You could like call your product fresh chicken or something, but like, what does it mean? And really nothing, because they're not held to any standard to be able to call something fresh or organic or free range, as you noticed.
Organic's a protected term, but the rest of them, yeah, they're all bullshit.
But organic, there's a lot of issues with that too, right? Because like when animals are organic, like you can't give them any antibiotics or any sort of medicine, right? Because then they would no longer be organic if they're pumped anything. So if they are sick, they're still considered organic, and they can go to the slaughterhouse to eat them. So it's tough world we live in when the demand is so high.
In completely unrelated news, my 15-year-old kid had his first day of work in his life today, and he got a job at McDonald's. So
congratulations!
Wow,
there you go. Oh yeah, you guys used to hear him back in the day saying, "I just want a poker bracelet." That's he's now.
Now he's saying, "Would you like fries with that?"
Yeah.
We need to get the audio clip of that.
He's not the first poker player.
A bunch of guys from 2010 who were 6 betting and 7 betting. That's what they say to kids. Would you like fries with that?
Let's move on to, we're going to get to a guy who pioneered that, Daniel. We're going to get to a guy later who pioneered that min bet strategy. Yeah, that's a little bit of foreshadowing there. The World Series of Poker. We mentioned it a bunch of times. Let's get to it. Some numbers first off. I'm not going to read right through them, but Anaj at Poker Fuse, Anaj Aurora, put together a pretty interesting list through 13 events. He went through the total prize pool, average prize pool. One of the things that I noticed, the average entries was 1379. And again, I think I don't know, Daniel, Terrence, what you guys thought, but when I thought about the World Series of Poker being a bracelet event and, giving a fair amount of notice, I mean, we got some notice that it was going to be Nevada and New Jersey that you had to get to if you wanted to play poker, and then you could make plans to go elsewhere to play in the GG series. I thought there would be more than what we're seeing. Again, I mentioned it earlier. The top 3 in terms of entries, the top 3 online bracelet series were not from these first 13 events. You guys surprised at all at the turnouts? Terrence, why don't you go first?
When you say it that way at first, yes. So it seems like, online poker is going through this really big time during COVID. Like everybody's playing online poker, and online poker should be really big, and people are hungry. And so, like, why aren't the numbers bigger than they've been in the past? Like, why aren't they a lot bigger? But the fact is that actually these numbers are very big and are very impressive when you consider the fact that only people in New Jersey and Nevada can play, and that you have to travel to those states. Now, that's always been true, but the fact of the matter is everybody was in Las Vegas during the World Series of Poker during June and July. So, when you're comparing like events to previous events in the past, you have to keep that in mind. Someone like myself, I mean, even if I could travel to Nevada right now, I wouldn't. But if COVID had never happened and I was in the World Series of Poker right now, I might be firing up some online events on my days off. And there's lots of people in the world like me, who have come in from all over the world. You might not even have a guy from Los Angeles might, if he's not super jonesing to play poker, he might just decide, that 4-hour drive, I don't really feel like a 4-hour drive to play online poker. But that guy was for sure going to be in Vegas for the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas at the Rio, and he would be playing those events. So I think the numbers are very good. They're very positive for what they are. And we talked 2 shows ago about how the rake and the structures and the start times, like none of this is really great. I mean, it's all kind of suboptimal. But so considering that, I think the numbers are very impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with you, Terrence, there. And so let's just use it a random example. Let's say in a given week at the World Series of Poker, when it's normally live event, let's say there's 10,000 poker players that are either there already or traveled there to play poker. Of those 10,000, probably about a third or maybe 40% in that neighborhood would play the online events, right? So now you take those 10,000 people, they're not there because they're not there for something else. People go to the World Series of Poker live for the experience, to do other things or whatever. To convince people to travel to Vegas or Nevada or New Jersey to sit in a hotel room to play online poker is a much more difficult sell than saying, listen, let's go to Vegas this weekend and play the Millie Maker, and then we'll catch a show, we'll go to the Vegas Golden Knights game, we'll have dinner, and we'll do this sort of thing. Like, you have a lot more people willing to do that than travel. Couple that with, as Terrence mentioned, the most important aspect, which is COVID, right? Means that a lot of people are, many people are socially distancing, quarantining. They're not looking to travel. But I think the biggest thing is that it's a much more difficult sell to get people to travel to somewhere to sit in a hotel room to play online poker than it is to say, come to the World Series of Poker and have all the ancillary benefits of being in Las Vegas, which we really don't have right now, and I don't know that we will for much longer. Vegas is spiking with the numbers, and I don't see it being a tourist destination for much longer because I think they're going to have to revert back to a phase or two.
Would you guys agree with me that the GG is going to just go off? I mean, I think we're going to see gigantic numbers here. You guys?
Oh yeah, I mean, you just have to look at the flight numbers from the opener. I don't have them handy, but it was only like 2,800 in flight A and 3,300 in flight B, something like that. And it's going to be big.
Yeah, and don't forget though too, there's tons of competition, right? So there's all kinds of events. You have, of course, GG running the World Series of Poker. You have, Party Poker with the WT, and then Stars is doing some sort of stadium series or whatever. So the dollar's spread thin, but I do believe that I'm hearing a lot more people, that are fresh and ready to open up GG accounts. And I do think that, for all the positive or negative things you can say about chasing history or bracelets or whatever, there's one thing that's true. The one thing that, poker players, if they care about anything tournament-wise, the number one peak of that would be World Series of Poker bracelets. That's still the case. And the fact that you can win those on GG Poker, first of all, if they were not bracelet events, I probably wouldn't be traveling to Mexico. And I know Phil Hellmuth wouldn't for sure, right? And I know there's other people like me who are specifically interested to know, am I going to be making history there? And you see, I think it's been great. We've seen some of the reactions from Ryan DePaulo, from Ron McMillan or whatever, from several people who have won bracelets, and they're super stoked about it. It is a special moment to win one, and I'm glad to see that people in the rest of the world, whether you're in Asia or wherever, you'll have an opportunity to win one from the comfort of your home on GG Poker.
Did that go into play, Daniel, when you were thinking about going over to start the GG series, because you do have the bracelet bets, and there's going to be giant fields over there. You've got smaller fields at the World Series Poker, and you've got millions of dollars in bracelet bets. And so I'm thinking that probably went a long way into when you were deciding to make the move to GG.
Well, honestly, so bracelets matter to me, right? The fact that I have them home here in Las Vegas, I always prefer being home no matter what. So I'm like, all right, if they're here, I might as well play these, then we'll move over. The size of fields was not really a concern of mine. And, just being away that long, that's a long trek. You're talking about 6-7 weeks in Mexico. And I feel like 4 to 5 weeks is about our threshold. Also, we were planning on bringing the puppies originally. And I thought 7 weeks is a long time, either to be away from them or not. So we're actually not going to be bringing them anymore because the more I read up about weird scorpions and shit like that, I just wouldn't be able to be happy with, the puppies getting sick. So our son, Eddie Sabat, will be staying here at the house, taking care of the puppies. They get along real well, so they'll be in good hands.
Finally, you get some value out of that guy.
Seriously, right?
Gotta learn to cook or something. Come on, let's go, Eddie.
This guy, because he goes to bed at 6 a.m., right? So he thinks he doesn't want to disturb us, so he doesn't cook all day, right? So now it's 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm smelling, and I'm vegan, right? So certain smells gross me out. I smell coming out of a microwave or some shit, some dead ass ham bacon thing that is so staunch because where the kitchen is, it's right underneath our bedroom. So you smell everything. You smell whatever anybody's cooking. And I'm like, it literally woke me from a dead sleep. And I'm like, what the? I looked at my wife. I go, what is that? So I texted him. He was like, oh, sorry. Making bacon and eggs. Making bacon and eggs at 2 in the morning. Bro, come on. Get on a schedule, will you?
I mean, I think if I'm couch surfing at the Negreanu household, I'm not firing up the bacon at 3 a.m. Come on, Eddie. Like, just let's go vegan for a month or two. Give it a shot.
He does the opposite of that. There's nothing green in his mouth or his stomach. It's all just rice, chips, and beef.
Nice. All right, let's get to some of the results. We'll fire through these. We're not going to. There's some stories, obviously. I think Daniel touched on a couple of them. Event 6 is where we left off. The $600 PLO 8 Max. Nathan Gamble, great poker name. He wins his second bracelet, both in PLO 8, both online. So he's won. Or no, sorry, the other one was live PLO 8, and this one live. So that's 2 bracelets for him. Deanne, I think you made a min cash there. John Esposito, old school legend. Johnny finished 3rd, so that's cool. Event 7 was the 800 No Limit Hold'em Deep Stack. June Kim wins his first bracelet in 103,000. Jeff Platt, who Poker News host and streaming host as well, he started the tournament, or sorry, he started the final table as the chip lead, but busted out in 7th. That would have been an awesome story if Jeff could have taken that one down. And event 8 was the $500 No Limit Hold'em Freeze Out, which ended up being a great story. Alan Gehring, the old school legend, speaking of old school legends, he won 120,000 in his first bracelet. Alan Gehring finished second, I believe, to Noel Furlong in the late 90s in the main event. And he did things that people used to laugh at him for. Daniel, you can speak to this, but Terrence, and I'm sure you remember as well. Alan was one of the very first people that started min-raising opening, and people would laugh at him because it was 4x at that time in tournaments, and Alan would just he was sure that he was right, and he played small ball to start. What do you guys remember about Alan Gehring? Daniel, why don't you go first?
Yeah, Alan Gehring. I mean, I was playing a lot of poker at the time, and I credit Alan Gehring and Noel Furlong. I mean, no, not Noel Furlong. Neil Longston with helping me sort of develop the small ball approach that has been adopted by virtually everyone who plays tournament poker today in terms of raise size. And back then, Alan flat out said, he's like, I don't see the point of raising more than, I don't see any value or any argument for raising more than the minimum pre-flop in no limit tournaments. And, he played pretty well post-flop. Now, he wasn't a small baller after that. Like this, he would get it in. Like he had balls of steel. He would make big river bluffs and huge overbets and different things like that. But he was certainly ahead of his time with understanding the price he lays himself by min raising. At the time, I was close to doing what he was doing, but let's say the blinds are 4 and 800. He's making it 1,600. I was making it 1,800 or 1,900 or like something in that neighborhood, which was smaller than the 3,000 or 4,000 everybody else was coming in for. So he was certainly a pioneer, and it was really cool. Apparently, the tournament that he won, it was in my vlog. He busted me on a hand that came ace, ace, 5. I had ace, king, and he had pocket 5s. And he ended up going on to win the tournament. So Alan Gehring, definitely a guy ahead of his time. He's obviously not been active in poker like on a consistent level, but he plays here and there. He has business interests and things like that. But good to see one of the, I guess now he'd be considered one of the old school, continuing to do well in 2020.
Yeah, all I remember was the Legends of Poker that he just tortured me on my left for like 5 hours, and he finally busted me with the 4-deuce.
Nice.
Sounds about right.
All right, moving on. Event 9 was the 1K No Limit Deep Stack. 71-year-old Ron McMillan wins his first bracelet in his first ever attempt playing online poker. He plays a lot of live poker. I actually know him a little bit from the Matt Savage Invitational Golf Tournament that we used to go on every year. And the last time I saw Ron, he was, I don't know if anybody knows Turbo Woods from LA's cash game player, but they were throwing ping pong balls on a ping pong table into beer cups for like $5,000 a pop. And then there was like a crowd around.
High stakes beer pong?
It was high stakes beer pong, but it was single cup, and it was crazy, out of control. But we talked about it before. We said, hey, this is going to be a great opportunity for average Joes, and not that Ron's an average Joe because he's a poker player, but this was a scene, and one of his friends took video of a pretty cool moment, and I think you have it, Ross.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yes! Got chips. he's got a mill. A mill. He's got a mill. Yes!
So that's great. I don't think that was the winning moment because his buddy says he's got a mill. I think maybe that was, when he got a big stack, maybe they're heads up or three-handed. But just a really cool story that a guy who, for a first shot at online poker and ends up thinking a bracelet that he's wanted to win for a long time. That was pretty cool. Event 10 was the $600 monster stack. Ryan Torgerson wins his first bracelet, but the interesting part is he finished second in Event 9 to Ron McMillan. He comes back right after that in Event 10 after finishing second and banks the very next tournament, the 600 no limit monster stack. One of the interesting names there, and I don't know, maybe Terrence or Daniel has a story about this guy, but Sam Grizzle finished in third. We've all heard some of the legendary Sam Grizzle stories. Daniel, do you have any others maybe that people out there haven't heard? Obviously the one where he rolls in with no money, borrows $20, runs it into 30,000 and then dusts it off and walks out with no money again that same day. But him and Phil Hellmuth obviously had some great tete-a-tetes during the World Series that were televised. But did you play much with them, Daniel?
Oh my God, I used to stake Sam occasionally, which, I don't know, call me an idiot. I staked him occasionally. It didn't go so well. But no, I love Sam. He's, as far as I was concerned, he's the wittiest poker player I've ever played with. Just so funny with his quick quips. I'll tell you two real quick ones. Okay. And these stories are not like nice, positive stories. They're just like, they're like kind of dickish, but they are what they are. So he's playing in Bellagio, and he loses like a couple big pots to this dealer. And he looks at the dealer and he goes, "Hey, dealer." She says, "Yes." He's like, "You have an umbrella?" And she's like, "Why?" He's like, "Because the next time I tip you, there'll be pink and purple elephants flying around the room, pissing on your head." Just so bizarre, right? But the other one that I liked a lot was David Gray. We'd be playing stud or whatever, and Sam was notoriously in and out of money, like always broke or whatever, playing for different people. I think we're playing like 3 and 600, and Sam Grizzle plays this hand kind of bad or whatever, and he beats David Gray, and David Gray has a mouth on him, like he doesn't like, So David's like, "What the hell, Sam? How do you call Fifth Street there when I have open jacks?" And he goes, Hey, now, you play your money the way you want to, and I'll play somebody else's money the way I want to." There's a million of them. Oh, God.
All right. Event 11, $500 no limit hold'em deep stack 6 max. Ramon Afansankara, did I get that right? Wins his second bracelet. Becomes the first player ever to win 2 World Series of Poker bracelets in online events. He won one back in 2018. That was pretty cool. Chance Corneth ended up losing to him. Heads up, finishes second. And that brings us to, for me, the highlight of the World Series of Poker so far, and that is Event 12, was the 500, Big 500. Ryan DePaulo. For those that don't know Ryan, he's got a YouTube video channel, a poker vlog. But it's not really just poker. He calls himself the degenerate gambler, and he goes around playing casino games and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It's so entertaining. Like, if you haven't checked out, I know a lot of people have watched Andrew Nemi, and they should, and guys like that, Brad Owen, who put out great poker content. But something a little different, if you're interested in and he's got a big library that you can catch up on. It's Ryan DePaulo, who's got a great YouTube video vlog to check out. Anyway, so he ends up winning his first bracelet in this 500, the Big 500. But the way he did it was kind of cool. He lives in New York, and he, of course, can't play in New York. He's got to be in New Jersey. So he drove over to New Jersey, and he ended up winning his bracelet while parked in a Whole Foods parking lot. I'm not sure if he was getting their Wi-Fi or if he was, sitting on his phone using his audio. But Ross, I think you have the video there as well. Why don't you play that? This is the winning moment when Ryan won his first bracelet.
Fucking God. Oh my fucking God, yo. Oh my fucking God, bro. Oh my fucking God, bro. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. I'm a legend. Sorry.
So great on so many levels. A, I'm a legend, and B, the pause, like he's an honorary Canadian. Sorry, it's because it's like 6 in the morning. People are going to work at Whole Foods. Just a great story. I love it. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah, of course. And who's like, with all the mental illness that you would see out at like 6 in the morning in like a public area, you just have to assume like you can't. Nobody can possibly know what's just happened. That this guy's won a couple $100,000 or whatever playing poker on his laptop on his computer. Like there's no possible way anybody can know that. So that all they can think is there is a mentally deranged person just coming out of his car and yelling and going back into his car. Like, do you call the police? Like, to what extent are you concerned about this? But fantastic story to have a bracelet win in a Whole Foods parking lot. Lance Bradley had the nut tweet, which was first person to ever go to a Whole Foods and come out with more money.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I didn't catch that. Am I the only one that watches his vlog?
Oh no,
I've watched it.
I watch. Like I don't find. I mean, for me, when I watch vlogs, like most people like watching the hand breakdowns. That's my least favorite part. Like I find that part the most boring. Like I actually like watching all the other stuff. And Ryan has a great personality. He's funny. He's like, I don't watch a lot of vlogs, but his, when they're on and I see them on my YouTube queue, I'll take a look and see what he's doing, because I like that he gives zero fucks. I mean, there's one that I thought was really funny where he's getting kicked out of the Borgata for filming, like literally. And he's like actually walking through the shit now. And he's like, fuck. I literally just got banned from Borgata. What do I do now? So pretty good. It brings me back a little bit too to when I started coming up, because obviously, he's, on the come up, right? He's not like a big high stakes wealthy guy yet, but just walking through the bushes, trying to get to the casino, and just the lifestyle. But like, I don't know. It's a good throwback for me to earlier times.
Ross, you're a fan too?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's as Daniel said, he's just kind of a real dude. He's gambling for like, $1,000, $1,500, like realistic amounts of money, and it's relatable. And he's dragging his girlfriend along with him, and yeah, he's a good guy. I'm happy to see him do well.
I think he was a legend before he won the bracelet, but that's
you're right, Terrence. He could have literally just him going and say I'm a legend. He could have literally yelled out like, "I am Jesus of Nazareth." Repent. It's so true, because people looking at that think, okay, well, this guy's either really drunk and shouldn't be in his car, or mentally deranged right now.
Also shouldn't be in his car.
Yes.
Or he's a champion.
Yeah.
I had to track him down for the pod, but he's actually got chips today too as well. But hopefully maybe we'll get him on in the future. Event 13, $1,500 no limit high roller. Michael Leck wins his first bracelet. Tons of cashes. Actually has cashed 7 of the first 13 events. And he mentioned in an interview that he was pretty shit-faced while playing the final table, which is funny. I guess they had a keg of beer or something, his buddies, while they were watching him play the final table, and he was partaking and still took it down. But getting back to the 7 cashes and 13 events, Daniel, how many cashes a year up there too, right?
I have 7 cashes as well. I think there's a lot of people that have 7 cashes. It's pretty crazy. Like,
well, how many total entries though? 'Cause
That's
the
the
thing.
question.
A lot of them have been multiple entries. So 7 out of 13, if they're freeze outs, like that's a hell of a number. But if your 13 events is actually like 25, that's like not super far from expectation.
I have a few rebuys, but not too many. The thing is, I've been playing right on time, and when you play right on time, like the chances of me building a stack are very, very high, because when you're playing that deep stack against weaker players, it's just really low risk. So, you start with 20K in a tournament. I typically will get to 40K on bullet 1 and not have to rebuy. So there's been a couple where I did, but for the most part, it's been 1 bullet from the go.
Event 14, World Series of Poker main event champion Joe McKeon wins his 3rd bracelet. This was the $3,200 no limit hold'em high roller. He wins $352,000 in his 3rd bracelet.
He saved me. He saved me, because the guy who came second, I wasn't even like thinking about it. Frankie, whatever, I can't remember his name right now. The guy who came in second. Let me see his name. I don't want to screw it up here.
You got a bet? You got action?
Frank Finaro. He's one of the people that has a bracelet bet against me. So he gave me a good sweat there that he did not hit on.
Did you wake up in the morning to see that you dodged it, or you?
No, I didn't even know what his screen name was. I didn't know anything. And then he texts me and says, "Oh, you dodged." I'm like, "Oh shit, you came second. That's right." So
I'm a little surprised McKeon didn't book a bet against you. He's got a little ego on him. I'm a little surprised he didn't take some action.
Yeah. Well.
All right. Event 15 is the last one. We've got $1,000 PLO 8 max. Guy Dunlap wins his first bracelet and 133,000. So Daniel, I think we're going to get to some tweets later, but somebody asked if you'd lost any bets yet. We just the aforementioned bracelet bets. You came close to losing one there, but sounds like you've dodged some bullets so far.
Yeah, no, that was the first one where there was a second place finish. I think Connor Drynan came in 6th in one of the events, and he's a big one because it's 100K. On the WSOP leg of my bets, they're much smaller. You know, they range in the 25K, anywhere from like 5K to 25K range. When you're talking about GG, now that's where the majority of it works. But I do have 2 of the bets. Ali Amshurovich, Connor Drynan for 100K where WSOP counts as well. So still plenty of money on the line for me if I do win one. And, you know, I've had some good runs. Just got to have queens hold at the key times. But I'm putting myself in contention every single day by building a stack. And then, you know, you let the, you know, hopefully the poker gods are on your side or whatever you call it.
We mentioned it earlier. You're streaming each night between 6 and 7 p.m. Pacific. And
6 p.m. to 7 p.m. So what I have been doing up until the last 2 days is I've been streaming live across Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch all at the same time, totally live without my hole cards. So you don't see my hole cards, but I've been sharing what I have, right? A lot of people seem to like that, but then of course you have a bunch of people who are used to the other format and they complain. Well, there was a PLO event, and I thought, you know, PLO with no hole cards, I think that would be too tough to explain to people without them seeing it. So I thought, all right, I asked Christian, I said, is there a way we can do it with a delay? We did that on my desktop, and it worked just fine. I don't really like being in there stuck to a desktop. Today, we figured, okay, let's just do the cards up thing for the thing. Did it here, which is my little streaming office or whatever you want to call it, and we had major lag issues because we were doing it on a laptop. So looks like I need to buy a new laptop from Mexico because I think I do prefer streaming with the whole cards on a little bit of a delay. Although even for the chat, like when you're following the chat, it is a little awkward because, you know, you're following chat that's like 5 minutes old. So people are like, oh, how do you call there? And you're like, where? Oh, 5 minutes ago when I had that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I kind of like the idea of live, and I think maybe we'll go back and forth and see what works best.
All right, let's move on to some tweets.
You're going surfing on the internet.
Landon, this tweet got some traction in the Twitter poker world. Landon at Landon Tice, tell me your best story. Tell me your best poker story that you have. I know some of you have some great ones, and there were some fantastic stories. We're not going to do ours because we tell them on this podcast now and then, but I thought this one was pretty good. Timex, who's a great follow if you don't follow him at Mike McDonald. So I'm 17, playing in an underground game, talking to the lady across the table. She asks if I'm in school, and I say I just finished my first year math at UW. Oh, cool. Who is your prof for CS 136? Mike answers Sandy Graham, and the lady answers, Sandy Graham, nice to meet you. She says, holds out her hand to shake mine. He says lots of late night poker. I usually go to the 12:30 section and Troy Vazega's class. I taught that one 6 weeks while he was on sabbatical. Pause. Not going to lie, I've been playing a lot of poker, which is great. Timex runs into his prof that he hasn't shown up for his entire school year for. There was another one at UberFacts. About 8% of Canadians have had sex in a canoe. That's an interesting stat. I'm not sure that. I think we might. Are we 0 for 4 in Canadians in this one? I think canoes are kind of hard.
Yeah,
can't see how that happens.
I've drank American beer, right? Which isn't that
close to water?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on. At Rolling Steak and Eggs. Me, awesome. I qualified for a World Series of Poker event. Wife, wow, is that the big one in Vegas? Me, sort of. Not the main one. It's too big for me. Wife, well, is Daniel Negreanu playing? And then he says, Daniel Negreanu, thanks for validating my achievement. His wife only knows it's a big deal if Daniel Negreanu is playing.
Daniel Negreanu was playing.
Nick Schulman tweeted something that was pretty funny. He tweeted, it was an email, and he says, World Series of Poker reaching out to make sure I'm okay. And I'm not going to read the email from World Series of Poker, but it's basically them sending them an email saying, hey, we noticed you've been deposited a bunch of money and you're free to do that. However, we just want to make sure you're okay. Which is it like, who's going to answer, no, I'm not okay?
It's more a question of like, you haven't been playing or whatever. We haven't seen you in a little while. We want to make sure you're okay. They're worried about his well-being, you know?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, we're supposed to. I mean, at least theoretically, like we want responsible gaming to be a thing in the poker world. At least I think most of us do. So, I mean, like when something like this comes out, it's like they're at least kind of doing the right thing. I don't know if they're sort of required by Nevada Gaming to check in on people when their deposits are over an abnormal amount. That might be part of the responsible gaming deal that they have with Nevada, but it's happening. It's not a bad thing, right? It's hilarious, but it's not a bad thing.
I mean, I don't think anybody checked in on Daniel.
That's right.
He's not rebounding that much. If I was rebounding,
He's cashing 7 out of 13. He doesn't. He's fine.
At DJ Physic, open call for approximately 600 people to come over to my house tomorrow and line up for my bathroom at 50 minutes past every hour to make me feel like I'm really playing at the World Series of Poker. Poor hygiene preferred, but not required. DM for address. I thought that was good. Juan Sola writes, thoughts on new Washington football name. So everybody knows the Washington Redskins are changing their name. But I did hear the new name. I know it hasn't been announced, but I heard the new name. It's going to be Rough Riders. It's the Washington Rough Riders.
Rough Riders with a space or no space? Because that makes all the difference.
For non-Canadians, the CFL had 2 teams. There was 8 teams in the league, and 2 of them were named Rough Riders. One with a space and one with no space.
You can't make it up.
You literally can't make it
It's
up.
the Rough Riders 7, the Rough Riders 6. We'll be back for the second quarter.
Yeah.
it's like the Rough Riders 5.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's 5. It's
5 to 1.
Okay, it's 6-all. There's a minute left. This is the last kick of the game. He's going to try and miss it, so he does get a single point.
And then the other guy is going to pass it to his punter, and he's going to punt it out of the end zone.
Oh, it wouldn't be so sad.
The end of Canadian football is the best entertainment in the world.
It is. He also asks, Ryan DePaulo, we did talk about that. What's up with John Juanda lately? As always, old school gambling stories. We told some old school. What's up with John Juanda? Is he playing? Is he in Vegas, Dana?
I spoke to John Juanda a couple times this week, actually. He's been in Japan for a while. He's pretty clear that, I've been talking about him a lot too lately because he was ahead of his time in another way. He's been in Japan. He loves Japan. He's got a family there. He's raising his kids. I don't see him ever living in the United States again. We talked a little bit about, social differences and ways of being, and I remember there was several tournaments 10 years ago that John Juanda would attend, and he'd be wearing a surgical mask. And a couple of people were like, what's that about? What are you afraid of? And he's like, no. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm just feeling a little sick, and I don't want to get anybody else sick. So it's a sign of courtesy, a sign of respect. And it's very common in, the Japanese culture that is very like, thinking of others, where when you compare that to the issue we face in the United States right now, there's like a big debate where people say, I have a right. You can't mum me with a mask. Like, it's one of the most simplest things to do, the most like easy things ever, but it seems to be a struggle here. So anyway, John Juanda is doing really well over in Japan, and just wanted to share that because, like I said, it struck me as weird when he wore one 10 years ago. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Wearing like a doctor or something? But it was, when you think about the depth of it, it's like the purpose of wearing the mask is not to protect you. It's to be respectful and kind to other people. And I appreciate it.
I played APPT events, 10 years ago, and there would be at least a guy at every table pretty much that was wearing a mask because he just was, maybe it was for his own protection, maybe he was just feeling under the weather, but masks are commonplace, and it's unfortunate that it's like this weird political issue because...
If you feel sick and you have a cold and you're playing poker, right? Like, even if it's not COVID, just like a regular thing. Like, I don't want to get you all sick. I don't want to do that. So, it's a nice gesture to be like, here, I'm going to do what I can to not make you sick.
I think Jeff needs to talk to, or John needs to talk to Jeff Madsen because Jeff will tell.
Yeah, I texted him today too. Madsen is one of those like Illuminati kind of conspiracy theory, rabbit hole kind of people. It's all an illusion, man. It's a loop. Reality. What is reality?
Is he going to be on Matisau's stream then? And are they going to do like a thing together?
Oh, that would be interesting, right? But I wouldn't probably tune into that one. I can't. I don't have to for that.
Doxy the dog walker writes at us, what's the highest stakes poker you've played? How did it go? I think we know Daniel's, right? 4,000, 8,000. Danny, but played higher than that?
Yeah, no, that was the regular game, essentially, when I was playing regularly in 2003. 4,000, 8,000, 2 and 4,000, but nothing. I never played bigger than that, no.
I played, I played live 100, 200 limit hold'em in the Commerce a few times. Online, back in the day on Full Tilt Poker, everybody remembers the nosebleed games they had, and I was an affiliate and had some money on there. I don't know, I can't remember, maybe 40 or 50,000 on the site, and I would hover over Omaha high-low split was my game, and I played millions of hands online, and I'd watch the 1,000, 2,000 Omaha 8 or better game, and it was Steve Zolto and guys. I remember Steve Zolto opened 7-handed with like deuce, 9-8. Like it was just, I would just sit there with my mouth open, like this is one that, like what the hell is going on? I would hover my mouse over an empty seat and just like dare myself to sit down with 10 bets or something. So finally one day I did, and I think I played a few rounds and broke even and quit, and it felt like a super degen for playing that high. But generally, I played 75, 150 live and online as well. Terrence, I'm going to guess 2,000, 4,000 heads up, no limit hold'em or limit hold'em?
Limit hold'em, yeah. I've played some 2,000, 4,000. Not a lot of it. It didn't go real well. I mostly stuck to like 1,000, 2,000, 500, 1,000. 1,000, 2,000 was usually when it was really good too. I remember New Year's Eve, I think it was 2008. I played 1,000, 2,000, and it was four-handed because it was New Year's Eve. So like one guy was like a well-known whale on PokerStars. He was like a casino owner from Austria, I think. Another guy was Dario Minieri, who was I believe he was a Stars Pro at the time. I'm not sure, but he played under the screen name Dario Minieri, so I'm assuming that he was. He was very, very bad at limit hold'em, and then the fourth guy was just like a guy that I know from like I know he plays like 30-60. Like I was kind of friends with him. He plays 30-60, but he's in this 1,000, 2,000 game, so he's for sure fully staked. And I won a very large amount of money that night. But yeah, I played some 2,000, 4,000. Wasn't really comfortable there. I was pretty comfortable at 500,000, 1,000, 2,000, but I played the most hands at 200, 400. Yeah, I've played some like 50, 100 no limit like live when people are drunk and not playing very good, but I don't think I was ever in the super elite of no limit hold'em cash game players, so I didn't play that big for no limit.
Roscoe, highest you've played, how did it go?
The highest? Oh, well, I mean, that probably has to be PLO when the PLO game got really deep at like 6 in the morning. But I think it's only equivalent to like 510.
Okay, all right. Next question was, what is the most influential poker book of your poker career? I thought that was a good one. Terrence, why don't you go first? Influential poker book.
It's probably Lee Jones' Winning Low Limit Hold'em. It was my first book. It was a very new book at the time when I started playing poker in 1998. It had just come out. I was, online on rec.gambling.poker, and everybody said like this was the best book written on limit hold'em. It's much better than that Skalansky and Melmuth stuff. Especially for the 4 and 8 and 5-10 limit hold'em games that I was making like $9 an hour working at the mall, so I certainly wasn't going to play any bigger than that. So that I read that book backwards and forwards. I mean, every page dog-eared. I ended up having like 3 copies of it. Ended up meeting Lee when we both worked for PokerStars and we had a relationship. So that was probably the one. I mean, obviously I read Theory of Poker hundreds of times, and I it's funny you bring up the Timex thing, that he was never in class and he never saw his prof, because I mean I distinctly remember reading all kinds of poker books, especially a Theory of Poker, while I was in the lecture hall. I remember reading like Skalansky and Bob Schiaffoni. I remember I read a lot of Bob Schiaffoni. I mean, I even read the Tom McAvoy books, which are just awfully bad. I read T.J. Cloutier back then, but so I mean, I got to say Winning Low Limit Hold'em, because it gave me what I needed to beat like you know, these low limit hold'em games in Vancouver where like it's 7-way action to the flop and, you know, it's just bingo. Like you know, you get the strategy that you need. And eventually from there, I learned to kind of play limit hold'em.
Daniel?
So I'm looking it up on Google because I'm trying to remember the guy's name. His name was Ken Buncher. Buncher.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Ken Buncher, this guy with a cowboy hat, Texas dude, wrote a book on limit hold'em. And it was like, I think Helmuth's book ended up stealing a bunch of the theories behind it. It was like, you know, it was way back when people looked at poker differently, where, you know, you looked at like the sheep and then the wolves. Like you know, he basically created like a animal character for different types of players.
Yeah.
You know, and classified and stuff like that. And I remember like the first time I played at the Orleans, playing $100, $200 tournaments, and I played with him. And I remember thinking that was pretty cool that I got to play with him. But I remember his book being for tournament poker specifically, you know, for limit hold'em back then. Obviously, pretty much everything that was written back in those days was exploitative. It had to be, because nobody really knew what game theory. Nobody knew the right decision. So everyone was doing things based off of the way the game's played, right? Like if you looked at some of the older books by Slansky or whatever, you know, in Limit Hold'em, it talked about if it's raised and re-raised and you have 2 jacks, fold, right? Whereas like, you know, really today people would be putting 9 bets in with like jacks or something like that. So, so everything was exploitative. But what Kenny wrote for me really hit home, because I kind of did look at the game like that, where there's like there's the weak, and then there's the strong bulls who I leave alone. Don't mess with them. Just let them do their thing. Then the weak, I always just constantly attack them and eat the sheep or whatever, you know. But anyway, the way that he described things in the book, it really reinforced a lot of the things I thought were good about limit hold'em tournaments. In the first 8 final tables I made in limit hold'em, I had 0 second place finishes and 8 wins. So
Aggressive call.
What's that?
Oh, the Helmuth drop. Love it. Mine was, I believe it was Hold'em players. Yes, the Sklansky one. The Hold'em for advanced players or whatever. It was Limit Hold'em book. I think I read that about 1,000 times. Chris George, CG, writes, about Daniel's bets for the World Series of Poker, GG Poker Series, who was the most requested to bet against him? What is his favorite bet?
Definitely the person that was most requested was Connor Drynan. He sold out to himself really quickly, and then a lot of people wanted to jump on board with him because you know, he won like 5 events at the Scoop or something like that, right? So, and he's one of the few people that were playing both. I think I made a mistake when I put this bet together by not separating from the beginning. Like at first I was like, they all count together, but then I realized like, well, how many people are going to be willing to play both, the WSOP and GG, right? Like it's quite a thing to do. So I ended up taking in a bunch of bets that are WSOP specific and GG poker specific. I do have a bet against the guy who made fun of me in his videos. It's probably my favorite, Lawrence Levinskas, the guy who made like the mock jokes. You know, he would do the thing like, in my snack, and he did it in this really like thick accent. And it was probably mean-spirited, but I don't care because I thought it was funny for the most part. So he reached out and we made a bet for 100K on the GG series only.
Nice. There we go. All right. So I know we have a ton of voicemails, but I think everybody's kind of running out of gas. Why don't we do 1 or 2, get through them, and then we'll sign her off. Roscoe, you got a voicemail or 2?
Yeah, sure.
Aggressive call.
Oops.
Email number
1. Hey there, guys. This is Tanner from Oklahoma, where COVID is sweeping down the plains. Just want to let y'all know I really appreciate y'all's podcast. Listen to it every day. Catching up all the old episodes. I just started watching Daniel's live stream on YouTube, and I had a question about that. I've only watched day 1 and day 2, so I'm behind watching it live. But I wonder how tough it is to be live and be, reacting to your hand with your whole cards not showing. But also, is there a chance you can get in trouble, by the rules for live streaming that? And if you say something like, "Oh, I had Jack 10," you had that Forever 21 guy who's still in the hand. I know Daniel wouldn't do it on purpose, but does that kind of leave you open for a situation that could be pretty shitty? Or anyway, hope you're all having a good time, and if you aren't, wear a mask. And come on down and play some poker in Oklahoma sometime.
Tanner in Oklahoma wearing a mask. Good boy, Tanner. Love it.
Great question. Really great question, and absolutely on point. What he's bringing up is when I'm doing the stream and when I'm actually doing it live, right? Like people at the table are likely watching my stream. And, you know, when you think about like when you're at a live poker tournament, you don't want to say what you had in the middle of the hand. You're like, oh man, I folded jacks and a jack king, you know, or something like that. So I have to be mindful. And I almost spilled it one time. I'm like, I should have played that. Like I shouldn't even say things like that. Like, oh, it's a tough decision here. I don't know. I could go either way. But, you know, so there's a little bit of care I need to do when I'm doing it live. When you're on the delay, that's not an issue at all. I don't know that I would get any penalties for it, but maybe it would be warranted. Like I mean, if I literally was in the middle of the hand and a flop comes king 5-5, and I'm like, I can't believe we folded pocket fives here, right? And I'm live, and there's two guys in the hand, and the other guy's like, well, one guy's listening, one guy's not, or whatever. You know, that's really bad. That's really bad etiquette. It's similar to what Helmuth did at the table when, you know, he was in that three-way pot and he went crazy and stuff like that. So great question. It is something to think about. I think I'm really, really careful about it. Like I try not to talk about anything, and I always say, I'll tell you what I had at the end of the hand. I'll tell you what this was, whatever. And so I don't give away any information. As far as how difficult it is for me, not really all that difficult. I talk a lot. What's getting difficult, frankly, is like my voice is going now. And I don't know if it's because when I do the stream, I do it differently than everybody else. And I've watched. A lot of people, when they stream, you just kind of watch them and they're typing. They'll say something every once in a while. I go similar to this podcast, I go the entire hour talking the entire time. I don't take breaks, like very small. And when I do have a moment, I'm looking at a next question that I can answer and engage and continue to keep it entertaining. That's why I only do an hour. I feel like if you want to watch the 8-hour streams, you know, there's plenty of those available. If you want to tune in for an hour a day with me, catch up on things, have a, you know, entertainment-packed 1 hour, then, you know, if that's your cup of tea, great. And if not, I can't do that, what I do for the hour. I can't do that for longer than that. When I hit the hour, I'm done. I lay on the couch and I'm just spent, you know, voice gone, everything. So I like that format. 1 hour is perfect for me. You know, as I said, if you want more, Twitch, YouTube, you can find other people that are streaming that, you know, will do the thing where they don't talk and just kind of let me watch them.
I was watching a stream yesterday. It was about, like I said, I've been getting into the short deck, and I saw this guy was playing short deck, and I was like, oh, I'll watch the stream for a little while. Guy was eating a carrot while playing poker. Oh. Is there anything worse than watching somebody chew while playing poker? Like a screen, it's not one of these ones where it's like 90% is the poker table, and like he's just got his like little thumbnail of his image. And he's like a third of the screen, and like he's chewing a carrot into a microphone and trying to teach me about like, oh my god, like I don't care. You could be the best short deck player in the history of the universe. I am not watching your fucking stream while you're eating a carrot. I'm sorry.
That reminds me of ASMR stuff. Hang on, you won't be able to hear it, but I'm just going to speak it. Have you heard of ASMR?
Oh yeah, I think we all know what ASMR is.
I don't know what that is.
Oh.
You hear that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, chewing. It's some chewing sounds. Lovely.
Do it in the microphone. It's doing. So some people are really into that. I'm surprised, Terrence, that you poo-pooed it without really giving it a chance.
Yes, I thought I was tuning in to learn some poker stuff and watch a guy play poker, but I was on the ASMR poker channel. Some people said Nick Schulman should do ASMR.
Yeah. I have a question for Daniel before we move on. I've always wondered, are those patches iron-on or stickers?
These ones right here, these are like, actually, you know who makes these patches? To take one off right here, this is a GG poker patch. You know who makes these patches and is very good at making these patches is the brother of one, Howard Lederer. Howard Lederer's brother, since way back in the day, makes these patches and makes them good. There's a little sticky on the back. You just peel them off, slap them on.
Boom.
There's a name. Are you cool with Howard these days? I mean, you've obviously had some issues with him.
I don't see him. I don't know what he's doing or whatever. Like, cool, I guess, like, would I go to the movies with him? Would I have dinner with him? No. Yeah. You know, would I tolerate him? Would I be civil to him and friendly? Absolutely. Like, I do have some empathy because I do think that, like, because he was very, I'll tell you what happened. I'm not going to go too far on the sidebar, but, like, for those that don't know, I was very critical of him for years. Attacked him relentlessly about what was going on with Full Tilt and with his sister and stuff. But I was really impressed with him humbling himself, years after he did the Poker News video that didn't go well, came to my house, sat at this table, and we spoke for about 2.5, 3 hours, and he was a lot more self-aware than I'd ever seen him. Because when he was the head of Full Tilt, he's got a big head, he's like the king of the world, all this kind of stuff, wasn't listening to nobody, but he really humbled himself and was more willing to see the faults in a lot of the things they did. And at the core, I think he genuinely wanted, he was very confident that he knew the right way, but I believe wholeheartedly that he genuinely wanted to do whatever it took to get the players paid back. Because there was a point where everyone else sort of just said, shit, I don't know what to do. And they just failed. And he was still working on it. Now, he blocked some things. He did some things people didn't agree with. But I do believe his intentions were always to clear his name, not just to clear his name, but to do the right thing. So sometimes people, even with good intentions, make decisions that are harmful or hurtful to other people. And I think that's the case with Howard. I don't think he was purposely being deceitful, lying to people. I do think they made decisions as a company at the very end that was absolutely wrong, where they knew that they didn't have the funds and they were still taking deposits. And there was a period where they knew that. And that's completely out of line. But when you think about it, it's like we say, like we've said, you don't know what you do unless you're in a desperate situation, right? Like people who say, oh, I'd never steal a box of hot dogs if I was homeless. Oh, really? What if you're homeless and you had 2 kids who hadn't eaten and there's a box of hot dogs right there behind the cart and you could get away with it and you knew you could, all right? Sometimes, you're in bad spots. So I'm not equating them to being homeless because they were all worth many millions of dollars. But the decision to do that, I mean, it's inappropriate and wrong, but you can see where the mindset would come from to say, fuck, we got to keep it afloat. Otherwise, we're really, really fucked.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, would they steal a bunch of lobsters if they... So I will say, just to counter that, we did, I think, about a 4-hour interview with Howard after he did the Poker News one. And we were asking him about, paying back players and how that could happen. And he started, talking about, some things. And I asked him point blank, I said, well, because, Howard obviously had a house and a whole bunch of money and cars and everything. And I said, well, have you done anything? Have you sold any of the stuff that you bought with that money to give back to the players? And he did say no. He just said, no, I haven't done that. So, I get it. And he definitely was one of the people there trying to figure out a way to get it sold. And who knows if Chris blocked the sale to the French guy or whatever happened. But Howard was there trying to get the thing back on track and people paid. I get it. However, I don't know that he wanted to give up any of the money that he had taken from the site. Who knows? Anyways.
Well, here's the thing. So, I get that, right? And obviously that's, it's hard to sit on a high horse if you take that position where you're not willing to give the money back. But ask yourself, let's say if the 4 of us had a company, we each had a 25% stake, right? Right? And the 3 of us, me, Ross, and Terrence said, we ain't giving shit back, right? You, Adam, may feel like, well, what the hell? If none of those 3 guys are giving anything back, well, then why should I? That's not a good way to think about it because it's called conditional morality or whatever, because you have to decide for yourself what is the right thing to do. Is it to give the money back or not? But you can see how you'd be influenced potentially if the 3 of us said, nah, Adam, we ain't giving nothing back. You'd kind of feel a little bit like a sucker to a certain degree where you're like, wait a minute, you all going to stay rich and I'm the one who eats it? I don't know about that.
Yeah, you have to be in the position. However, there's more to it, right? There was the stuff that was going on to get them to that point, taking these huge bonuses and pilfering the money that they did to leave that company in such... it started way before that, right? They were made horrible, borderline criminal decisions all the way along.
Listen, when the gravy train, this is the problem. This is the problem with anybody who's makes a lot of money, even athletes, NFL players or whatever, right? How many stories do you hear of NFL athletes or whatever who 5 years after their career are completely broke, right? It's like the gravy train's coming, champagne, buy this, buy that, spend, everything's going to roll, and then when it stops, you're screwed. This is not all that dissimilar to what kind of happened with Eric Lindgren as well. He was part owner in Full Tilt Poker, and he was getting checks every month. So all the crazy gambling he was doing and the dumb decisions he was making, he could pay for it. He was going to be in integrity. Then when that stops, it's like, oh shit, you didn't think about that. So clearly, the way that Full Tilt was running their operation was they just never wanted to believe for a second. They had the arrogance to think that it was never going to go south, it was never going to go sour, There's nothing bad that can happen. They did not save for a rainy day, and people suffered as a result.
All right, we got one more in us. We got one more in us. Right? All right.
All right. Cool.
Email number 2.
Hey, DAT Poker Podcast team. I have a question for Daniel or the whole team. I don't know how much Terrence is playing online at the moment. In regards to us moving on to online versus stuff and other online tournaments, what's the difference you take in, obviously not being at the tables and seeing how people, like their personal habits happen to see reads? Do you take an effect how fast they call or how their movement is with the process they take, playing cards online? Do you take that in effect, or you just do it all by obviously knowing cards and stuff? That's my question. Thank you.
Terrence, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I do consider it. It's obviously going to be less of a factor than I do than live, where you're getting a lot more information. Timing tells are a tricky one because sometimes people just aren't paying attention, and that's why they're slow acting, and you can't necessarily get information from that. Some people, you might see that somebody checked very quickly and think that that's a weak check, but that's often not the case. Sometimes it was just an auto check situation, but. Yeah, I think there is information to be gained there. I don't think it's a ton of information. It's probably not worth thinking too much about. I mean, it's a little bit of information, but you can definitely drive yourself crazy, and there's probably better places to put your energy. Don't know if you guys agree.
Well, no, I definitely think there's value in looking into this. But as you said, the one danger you have is like somebody might be playing slow because they're playing 16 tables or they're busy or they're doing something. But there are a couple things that you can sort of feel pretty if you notice a player takes like usually an average amount of time and they make a snap decision, well, that would be a similar type timing tell that you would see live, right? Someone usually takes 6-7 seconds, and in this case, they just re-raise you, jam you all in on the flop or something like that. That should be something you look for. The other thing to look for too is most sites will have, like on WSOP, they have like a check fold button. So if you see a hand where it's like 5-way or whatever, and it goes check, check, and then insta check behind, well, then you can rule that player as completely whiffing and not having any piece of that. Now, how can that help you? That can help you when you're in position and you know that this person's folding. That's one less player to worry about. So it can make you make your bluffs more likely to work because you have that. So there's definitely some things to look for, any sort of differences. But again, as Terrence said, you can easily be fooled by a guy who all of a sudden tanks for really long time. He's like, oh, what the hell? He tanked that long and then raised me. He's like, yeah, because his computer fell on the floor and he was baby puked on it and he was trying to wipe the keyboards so that he could get to it so he could raise you with the nuts because he was like timing out, So you can't rely on it fully.
One of the ones I used to find fairly reliable is pre-flop. When it's folded to somebody and they don't act, if they act right away because it's folded to them and they act right away and they raise, generally they were stronger than if it's folded to them and there's a pause because now maybe they have a hand that they would have called with, and now they've got to make a decision if they want to raise pre or how they want to do it. That was one that I always sort of got a little bit of.
Yeah, no, that's true. So perfect. Yeah, like if you're like in the big blind, folds around to the button and the button insta raises. Well, he's been waiting to do that. Whereas folds around to the button, now the button's looking and goes, oh shit, I guess nobody raised. I'm the bud. Should I open this hand? I don't know. So that's definitely a tell that I think is worth looking at too. Absolutely, Adam.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Danny, you got to be wiped. I know it's been a long day for you, and you've probably been going every day. So we'll pack it there. We do have some more voicemails we'll try and get to. Roscoe, do you want to drop some? We're behind on our emails, no question, and it's going to be that way for a while because of the World Series. We got lots to talk about, but if they do want to drop a voicemail, I want you to...
Yeah, if you have an email that didn't get answered, you might consider sending it in voicemail format at 1-775-434-2932. All the links are in the descriptions, and the email is thatpokerpod@gmail.com. YouTube is live if you only listen to this in audio. If you only watch it in video, you can listen to it in audio. But yeah, we're all over.
All right, run good this week, Daniel. Pop off those bets, and we will talk to everybody next week.